If you want a software engineering job, you probably already know you need LeetCode. But no matter how much you try, no matter how many problems you try to solve, it just doesn't seem to be working. It's just not sticking, or maybe you're having a hard time with motivation to even keep going. Well, I know exactly how that feels because I have been there, all of those places. And what got me past it and started getting me results was realizing that I was approaching it completely wrong on multiple levels. And I see people starting out with LeetCode making all the same mistakes I did. So in this video, I want to share the 5 things that finally made LeetCode click for me. So I'm going to start with the mental aspect. A lot of people watching probably, like me, started out seeing LeetCode as a necessary evil to get the job you want. And if this is the only way you see it, it's going to become very difficult to stay on track and stay motivated to keep doing it. You're going to start saying things like, this is the most dumb thing I've ever done. Why are interviews structured like this? They shouldn't be. I'm never going to use this on the job. If you're anything like me, it's going to become very difficult to stay on track with something that you don't feel like is leveling you up meaningfully. So, how do we get around this with LeetCode? Here's the truth. It's not completely meaningless. Sure, you're never going to be sat down and told to solve a random puzzle blindly on the job, but the overall process and thinking that it trains is useful. I like to think about optimizing things in a real-world system. So when you first solve a LeetCode problem and you score very low on efficiency and you think about, how can I make it better? How can I bump that score up? That is very similar to optimizing a real project. That kind of thinking pattern is very similar. Also, the way you solve LeetCode problems is you translate the word problem into a pattern, hopefully, into then code, which is very similar to translating business or customer requirements into technical specs into then code. Interviewers like DSA because it's a good way to see candidates' problem-solving skills and critical thinking, and ensure they have a good grasp of coding. So if you start seeing it the same way, it's going to go a lot smoother. Okay, so you have the motivation, you know why you're doing it. What do you do next? So first thing, if you haven't already, learn data structures. If you're in university, this should be a core class that you take pretty early on. On top of that, there are tons of free resources on the internet, YouTube. Just make sure you get familiar with the basics. Arrays, linked lists, and by extension stacks and queues, maps and dictionaries, hash maps, hash tables, trees, graphs. Most of your LeetCode learning will happen once you have a solid understanding of what those are, so I won't focus too much on that in this video. Okay, so you know your data structures, you start trying to solve LeetCode problems. First mistake everyone runs into, trying to memorize every problem. Stop. Memorizing not only doesn't work, in fact, it's missing the entire point. LeetCode is really not about a right answer. In fact, often there is no one right answer, there's only trade-offs. There might be one solution that's really good on time, but uses a lot of space, and there might be a different solution for the same problem that is very space efficient, but not so much time efficient. You need to be able to recognize those trade-offs and pick the best one for the situation. LeetCode is about learning to solve problems and showing your way of thinking and problem solving. If you go straight from problem to memorized solution, then frankly, yes, LeetCode is pointless and useless and a performative exercise. And not only that, it's also completely unhelpful to your interviewer because, again, they are trying to see your thinking. This is the entire point of it all. The second mistake is to make your entire strategy just sitting down and solving the problems cold turkey. Completely unrealistic. This is what I did as a beginner, and it does not work. It's just going to leave you feeling frustrated. Think about it. Would you study for an exam by just taking a practice test over and over without having touched the actual learning material or gone to class? I mean, it might work eventually, but you're just going to end up memorizing answers and hoping that's what's going to show up on the exam. Exact same thing with LeetCode. And this has been the biggest unlock for me by far. If you take away nothing else from this video, this one is the most important. Learn patterns. There are only about a dozen or so patterns that most LeetCode questions fall into, and once you learn these and learn to recognize them in questions, a whole new world is unlocked. The way I like to study these is for each pattern, I watch 3 or 4 videos on different problems in that pattern that walk you through the solution and copy them first. just to kind of internalize the pattern. Looking at the solutions, watching these videos is not cheating. Again, it's a learning material before the practice test. So my specific system, what I do is I first watch the video maybe several times to really try to understand what is happening. Then I put the video aside and write out how to solve the problem in English sentences. Then, and only then, I write code based on those English sentences. None of that I came up with on my own, it's all from the video. After that, pick a few questions you haven't seen before that are in that category and see if you can solve them on your own. Don't try to go and solve every single question you see on LeetCode in order or pick random ones. I know I do that in my LeetCode with me videos, but that is for later on practice. That is the last step after you've understood the patterns and filled your toolbox, so to speak. And one of the best resources that helps you fill your toolbox, master these patterns, is AlgoMonster. AlgoMonster was built by engineers from Google, Meta, and other top tech companies, and also happens to be the sponsor of today's video. The entire platform is centered around learning the core patterns that show up in coding interviews. They have a full structured learning plan where you learn all the patterns and then practice applying them. One feature I especially like that I haven't seen anywhere else is their algorithm flowchart, which helps you quickly identify which pattern a problem belongs to. They also have code templates for all the patterns, so you can memorize those and always already have a starting point. And they also have a speedrun mode for fast practice once you've learned the concepts. So if you want to take advantage of all of these awesome resources, check out the link in the description, and you can even get 50% off the Pro plan. So once you've understood and learned the patterns, and you sit down to solve a brand new LeetCode question, what do? Before you dive straight into code, I like to draw and plan it out first. So spend a little bit of time with the problem, try to understand exactly what it's asking first. Then, once you've done that, start with writing out your proposed approach in English sentences. Maybe pseudocode if you're more comfortable. Then you want to also draw it out, if that helps, visualize the data structure, and walk through an example of what your code would do visually. You want to make sure you understand exactly what you want before you start writing any code. Okay. Then once you actually get to the code itself, what language should you use? I recommend Python. It's the closest to natural language, so you don't have any wasted time writing boilerplate syntax. Python, admittedly, is not my favorite for actual production code or projects, but for LeetCode it's perfect. Interviewers, again, want to see your problem-solving skills and how you think through problems primarily, not that you can remember minute syntax details of C++. Especially with AI now, software engineering is going to become a lot more about how you think about code and less about knowing the syntax. And finally, I want to leave you off with one more method I discovered that has actually helped me immensely, but I have not seen any other LeetCode video talk about this. You may have heard of the learning pyramid. It suggests that certain learning methods, such as passively listening to a lecture or reading, are less effective than more active methods. And at the very bottom of the pyramid, the most effective method is teaching others the material. So I actually use this for LeetCode. The way I've done it is I like to explain the coding patterns or talk through solutions on long car rides. Don't worry, that other people in the car are also in computer science. I'm not just boring random people with LeetCode strategies. But I found it's really effective and really helps me solidify the concepts I've already learned. So to recap, the 5 things that finally made LeetCode click for me was, first off, the mental reframe, understanding exactly why you're doing it and how it's helping you personally level up. Number 2, no memorizing. Not the point, not helpful. Number 3, learn patterns instead. Number 4, visual diagrams and plain English before touching any code. And number 5, see if you can find a way to teach others what you learn. And with that, thank you so much for watching. If any of these were helpful, let me know down in the comments. And if you're new here, I'm a computer science student sharing my journey, so if you want to stick around, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.